The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of the streaming platforms, public access channels, the KittyRose lifestyle, or the program underwriters.
Tim's on my feet, stomping out the negativity. Everybody not a friend of me. Spread the love, still I move deliberately. Brave face on, but the smile be heavenly. Brooklyn girls, so they love the energy, love sincerity. So I take the liberty to take them on a journey lyrically through hallways and alleys.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the next chapter where we discuss shades of gray. I am your host, Minister Cat, aka KittyRose. Welcome back, welcome back. Guess what you have just entered into? The fourth installment of Quinelle's Check-ins. I know you guys appreciate when she's visited us so far because I know I have. I'm still learning the techniques that she gave us last time here about parenting adult children. I still hear her in my voice, in my head saying, mute the phone. So I listened this holiday season and I muted myself a few times. So let's welcome Quinelle's Chickens back to the next chapter. Yay!
Hello, it's so good to see you.
Hey, welcome back.
Thank you so much. I'm excited.
You are. How has been your journey? How's been your ride so far here with us?
In terms of Quinelle check-ins?
Yes.
Oh, it's been nice. It's so nice to come and chat, and I get to talk from the clinical standpoint and from a personal standpoint. We get to kiki. It's nice.
Yes,
It's
cool.
good.
Well, guess what, everyone? This week's topic of the week is a doozy, because when Quinelle's check-ins come into town, it's going to be something for all of us. And this one, I think I'm an expert. I've been successful somewhat. Even though they haven't all lasted, I've had some good, what do we call them?
Relationships?
Okay, I was
Yeah.
going to call them stable or some
Stable
stock.
is nice.
Some nice herd. Wait, I didn't want to animalize them.
Oh,
but
you're talking about the man. Oh, carry on.
Cattle.
What would you
I don't
say?
know. I was trying to think of a good word. But this week's topic of the week is dating
Woo!
and relationships.
Yeah, I get
And the
excited.
reason why I said dating and relationships is because she's going to hit both topics.
Yes.
Dating and how we have proper relationships. Relationships with our siblings, relationships with our friends, relationships. So I want to show why this was a topic that she wanted to bring to us.
Yeah. So you're about to show the video with the dating.
I'm gonna get to that, but what was that? Like, what was the thought behind that? Why is this a topic you wanted to bring, especially now during the holiday time?
Yeah, so I am an individual and couples therapist, and then I typically will see a lot of single clients, and the single clients are dating, and they're like, it's weird, people are strange, they ghost you, they don't talk back, I don't know where to meet people, where do I go? And I'm like, okay, I see so many people, let me just do an event where I can talk about where do you meet people, how do you keep people, what are some ways that you can approach people? So I really did an event that is a dating panel,
Okay.
It's a mixer and it's a Q&A, so you get to, see somebody there if you think they're cute, and then see if they're implementing some of the tips that are going on. So it's a really, really fun time. I've done it twice. The next one will be in the first quarter of the year.
Okay. Did any love connections happen?
I did have a love connection, so that was good. It's good. There's some food, there's some drinks.
Okay.
You have a good time.
Okay, well, let's see what it looks like, or what it potentially, what it has looked like,
Yes.
and what we could look forward to the beginning of the year.
Yes.
All right, let's check it out.
Okay, so we are toasting to not just a wonderful event, but may everyone in here receive the love that they deserve, and may the love be handpicked for you.
How you feeling? Sensational. Yeah. What didn't I do for you, girl? And I know. I act the fool for you. Love like a riddle, yeah. Give me the clues to the riddle. Oh, wow. Laugh just a little, yeah. Life's pretty sweet, can't till the nighttime, nah. I don't get nobody, yeah. If you give me body, I won't tell nobody, yeah. Valley girl, she West Coast. Now she want me pool skirt, so me pool skirt. Valley girl, she West Coast. You see, it's obvious. Sensational. Yeah. What didn't I do for you, girl? And I know. I act the fool for you. Love like a riddle, yeah. Give me the clues of the riddle. Oh, wow, laugh just a little.
So it's like, if I can't get on Hinge or Tinder, even though we don't want that quality man, where do you go?
All right, so outside. Throw it out there. Wild card. We ain't a pain. So yes, a lot of people go to work, go home, go to sleep.
We outside.
Hold on,
We outside.
besides outside, and besides apps?
Besides apps, we've already graduated from
Mars?
the club.
You gotta pay. See, the apps you gotta pay. The apps, I saw that on Hinge. I did a free trial.
After the free trial.
The regular, what I was receiving during the regular free joint versus what was after what I paid. I'm like, I don't really want to keep paying. I don't like subscriptions.
The event was great today. I learned a lot. I love when people come together and talk about shit that's really plaguing our community. Us not dating correctly, us continuously picking the wrong partners, and we're not knowing why. So hopefully more and more events like this to come up, and we can get more and more information out there to people so we can start making better decisions, better dating choices.
It was a great event. If you want to figure out what your next step is going to be, if you want to figure out who you are and who you want to be with, I encourage everyone to come out to the next one.
This was so amazing. Thank you guys for coming out. Thank you for your great energy. Thank you for all the good questions. I know that you guys got some great answers. This was so good. Obviously, I have to do it again. I can't stop. So I'll see you guys next quarter.
Okay, Miss Quinelle. Okay. I must have been busy that day. I think I was, right?
You'll be
Okay.
at the next one.
I'll be at the next one. Oh my goodness, but the turnout was cute.
Yeah, it was
That was
really
your first
good.
one or your second one?
That was the second one.
Wow, good job. So
Thank you.
again, the inspiration was having all these couples
All
already.
these clients, like, where do I go to meet people? How do I keep people? How do I approach them? What am I supposed to say? What do I wear? Like, all these questions. So I got some dating experts together with myself, and we just did a panel.
And Tinder is
good.
not the wave because I was under the assumption, one, that Tinder was more for white folks.
Tinder is a hookup situation.
And that's what I heard. Tinder was straight sex.
Yeah.
Right, so you're not looking for Tinder for dating.
No.
Okay. Online dating, I have not yet tried that, but I said that if this relationship that I'm in now doesn't work, then I'm gonna try Christian Mingle. Plug out to Christian Mingle. I like to do an ad with you guys. Okay, so you've met someone.
Yes.
What are some of the red flags to look for during the dating phase?
During the phase, right?
Yes.
So
Wait. So what are some of the red flags to look for during the dating phase? First, explain to people what dating is, because I think that's the misconception. People don't know the difference between dating, hookup, courtships, one-night stands.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Right?
Okay.
So if you are dating, that means you are seeing somebody multiple times, whether that's in a week, whether that's in a month. That does not mean that you are in a relationship with someone just because you are dating them. That means you are seeing them. Courtship means that somebody has decided to pursue you as a relationship, as a serious relationship. I think the young generation, even the older generation, y'all don't know sometimes, but you guys are in a situationship. And that just means that you are doing a lot of things that you would think that you're in a relationship doing, a monogamous relationship doing, but there's no title. So really you're just in a situationship. And so yeah, make sure that if you are dating, that you're dating multiple people so that you don't end up in a situationship where you're putting all your eggs in this basket and then you look up and the guy is like, or the girl is like, yeah, I wasn't really, we were just kicking it. Like, what's going on?
somebody told me, matter of fact, a man told me that if a man does not tell you that you are his girlfriend,
Okay.
then you are not.
You are not.
Right.
Don't
Okay.
make stuff up.
Right.
Don't be like, yeah, but we're together 4
Right.
times out of 7 in a week. Yeah, no.
So what are some of the red flags to look for during the
Yeah.
dating stage?
In the dating stage. So I like to talk about being in a on a date, an actual date, whether it is, let's call it an outing, right?
Okay.
And it's just the two of you.
Okay.
So let's say a dinner date. A red flag is if the guy is complaining or the woman is complaining about places like where they sat or how the waiter treated them. Particularly though, if they mention things like, I'm better than this, I don't deserve this, I don't sit here. Because now you are kind of venturing off into how does this person think about themselves? Do they have a superior sort of complex about themselves?
Okay.
Right? So it's one thing to say, oh, I really like a booth versus a chair. But it's another thing to say, did they sit me here? They don't know who I am. This is not how I do, right? So you have to pay
Okay.
attention to things like that.
Okay.
That is a red flag. And then you have to really pay attention to how people are talking about your sex, right? So let's say you're a woman on a date. You have to pay attention to how this man is talking about, or a woman, right? Is talking
Right.
about their mom, how they're talking about their exes. Be very, very intentional about just listening. Don't just put out a bunch of information about yourself so then the person could change and give you what you like, because that's a red flag too. But just make sure that they're saying things that are not disrespectful, that are not contemptuous or anything like that. I think those are two really, really big red flags to pay attention to.
What do you say, because I hear this a lot, and it really kind of bothers me, but I hear this from women a lot. Oh my God, there's no good black men. He that, they just the end, blah, blah, blah. And I started to say, well, if you feel that way, and every single man you've met is no good, then are you putting the mirror up on
to
yourself and
yeah.
saying, well, are you the problem? So how do we get when we don't see the problem within ourselves?
Yeah. So that often happens, right, where you start looking outwardly, but then we have to say, okay, well, where is the common denominator here? If the common denominator is me, if I'm constantly meeting these people who I think are so terrible, then now you have to turn the mirror and say, well, why am I attracting or why am I attracted to this type of individual? What is it about me that is still really clinging to things that are not good for me? And we didn't even get here yet. We'll get there. But, you know, there are certain things that you need to do when you are single to make sure that you are stable so that you're not attracting or attracted to certain people. And then you're staying in relationships. And now you're wondering, why does everybody, quote unquote, suck?
Yeah. What can happen when you ignore the red flags or relationship cycles?
Yeah.
Like repeat behavior and that, I don't know why it's happening to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just, I tried and I just keep.
Yeah. I mean, when you ignore red flags, you end up in a situation that you really can't stand. And I only started at the superiority complex, but there are things like, do you listen to me when I'm speaking? Do you show me empathy if something is wrong? And not just empathy when somebody else has offended me, but when you yourself, the person that I'm dating, when you have offended me, do you show me empathy when I'm speaking, right? And so if you just get into these relationships with people who are not showing you empathy, who don't really listen to you, they talk over you, they minimize how you feel, they minimize what you have to say. If you're not careful, then you end up in relationships where you're being manipulated, where you're being controlled, where there is a cycle of abuse going on. It could be emotional. It doesn't always have to be physical, right? And so you got to be really, really careful.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely a blur. Sometimes we forget or we think that abuse just comes from a physical point of view, and we don't realize that the way that someone speaks to us can be a sign of abuse. But just to make a sidebar question, that abuse that becomes familiar, that we don't stay away, that we don't leave.
Yes.
Does that start at home? like our childhood?
That always starts in your childhood. And even what people don't realize too, the person who is doing the abusing, that starts in childhood. A lot of times, I think I said it on the last show, the way that we are reprimanded is the way that we will reprimand our partners. And so there's this hot word, this hot topic now about narcissist. And a narcissist is created by well-meaning parents that really mean well. But what they'll do is they will hype their child up. They will put a lot of attention and affirmations into their child when they do well. So now they grow up and they're looking for that same sense of satisfaction in someone who's paying them attention and someone who's pumping them up. And the parents, while they pumped them up when they were doing well, they really spoke down on them when they were doing poorly or when they weren't doing the absolute best. So now that person is looking for the best. So something that can be a sign for you to look for, like I said before, if you're at a table with a new person, they don't have to be a narcissist. I know it's a buzzword. They don't have to be a narcissist, right? But it's a red flag if somebody is like, well, you don't know who I am. We're supposed to be sitting at XYZ place. So those are things, that's why that's a red flag.
On that note, let's take a break.
You know, a lot of people say when you're going somewhere, you don't want to look back. But I beg to differ. I can't lie and say it was easy. I looked at everything in a different light. I realized it started with me going back and getting my high school diploma.
About that narcissist being a topic, a hot topic, a buzzword right now, because I recently actually I hosted an author from Detroit, Mara Hall, who just did a book called Love Bombing, telling the story of a narcissist that she was involved with. So you have a video about narcissists before we actually talk about it. So what made you find, was it easy to find this video?
So the video is of me speaking.
Okay.
Right, and so I just did I just did a podcast talking about narcissists and things that you can look out for, like signs and how to get away.
Have you had a narcissist in your life?
I
Even
have
not on a romantic level?
No, I haven't had a narcissist.
So if we haven't necessarily had a narcissist, then could we actually identify or be able to tell what one looks like?
Yeah. So you cannot diagnose, and I try to encourage people to stay away.
That's not an illness? Okay.
No, like to stay away from that word. But there are things that are a sign of abuse that are red flags, and you don't have to diagnose a narcissist, but you can say, oh, you're doing things that I don't like, and I'm out.
Okay. So let's check out her podcast. So do you have a podcast?
So no, I was a guest on a podcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's check out her guest spot on this podcast and hear what Quinelle had to say about narcissists.
Right? There will be moments where you feel like you're on this high, which they know that you need that, but they also need it at the same time. So people that think like, oh, they're just doing this for me, they're doing it for themselves because they need to position you in this space where it's like, okay.
Groom you.
Yeah, groom you so that you can hang on to my every word. I'm going to feed you. I'm going to pump you. That's love bombing in a sense too if they're broke. And then the criticism comes though if they don't feel the attention. If they do feel like they're abandoned or they want you to do something in a specific way, you have to stop yourself. I don't care if you have to sit on your hands. I don't care if you have to hold your lips and press your lips together. You have to not feed in or make a move into the criticism. So don't try to fix the criticism. That is your number one thing, because once they see that they can criticize you, or they know that they can because you're deep in the relationship, right? But once they see that it's still working, I should say, then they make sure that they just pile on more and more and more. So if the criticism is, I don't know, you're the worst cook, it's not like, oh, no, I'll do better, don't do that. Or it's not like, oh, well, I just cooked this good last week and you said that was nice last week. Don't do any of that. You just sit and you say, you're right.
What I found interesting, and I hate that because I say that what I find interesting it come back from every video. But what I found interesting about that video was, one, love bombing, two, stopping yourself, even if you have to put your hands underneath your body, but about don't feed into criticism. And the reason why that stood out for me is because I think that criticism can be so sneaky, like in a subconscious kind of way, not insulting where it sounds like. I'll give an example. Like if I'm self-conscious about the top part of my body, right? So I guess a criticism would be like, well, why are you wearing that? You know what I'm saying? Or you know that doesn't compliment you, and not that it is something that he's saying to be insulting, but I think if you start to hear that enough without any validation, maybe, could that be a way of someone criticizing you, but because it doesn't sound like angry words or it's not someone yelling at you, that's how sometimes we can feed into the criticism, because the tone of the criticism may not seem like someone's yelling or directly being mean, just subconsciously being mean, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so when I say don't feed into the criticism, I am more so talking about things that are blatant. There will be no confusion about what this person is saying to you. So criticism on its own is just a complaint. We can criticize people every day. In regular, everyday conversations, we will say things like, why are you doing X, Y, Z? And that can come off like a criticism. It's just a complaint. When you're in a relationship and there are things happening to you, in addition to literally being talked down upon, that's really what I'm talking about, not to feed into being talked down upon, having your whole entire character assassinated. And let's say so this is what gaslighting is. So let's say that you
Because that's the other buzzword
that's
right
the other
now
buzzword,
that's happening,
right?
gaslighting.
So the biggest thing about gaslighting is it's not just lying. It comes with a component of talking down on you, right? And so let's say that you say something like, oh, I cooked this meal really well. Gaslighting is, no, you didn't cook the meal well. So you see that face that you have, you're very confused. You're like, what do you mean? That is one way how you will know that like something is going on. This is a red flag, because you're like, no. I know that I cooked this. I just cooked this. They're trying to act like I'm crazy, right? So that's the first part of gaslighting. The second part of gaslighting is the talking down on, which is, you know you didn't cook. You can't cook. You don't do anything right, right? So it's being compiled together. And when I say don't feed into that, you could easily say something like, well, what do you mean? You just said that I cooked this meal well last week. You just said I cooked a meal well like 2 weeks ago.
And your voice is even changing.
Right? And you're trying in your mind to figure out, are you going crazy, right? Don't feed into that. Just say, okay. That's it. Okay.
But then aren't we being passive?
But if you are in a relationship with somebody who you think is a narcissist, if you're in a relationship with someone who is gaslighting you, yeah, you are being passive, because what you're not trying to get into is this back and forth where the person can see that when they nitpick at you, when they put you down, that your go-to thing is going to be that you try to fix, because they want to get you in a position where you're just dependent on them and you're fixing, and there's this cycle that they can continue to abuse you in.
So how do we, because I feel like because we're women, so obviously we're talking, well, not obviously, but I think obviously we're talking from our women perspective. What happens when the woman is the gaslighter? When the woman is the narcissist? Like we're talking as women in regards to men, the opposite sex, because that's what we float with. But what happens when we're the ones who's doing the love bombing?
Yeah. So we can easily be the ones doing the love bombing, and we can easily be the ones doing the gaslighting. And I'll talk about love bombing in a second. But if you are a male, you have to do the exact same thing. You have to not try to fix. So for this person's approval, that's what they're really looking for, right? So that's the reason why the thing for you to do is to not try to get their approval, not try to continue to be like, do you like this? Do you like this? Do you like this? Because the goalpost is going to constantly change, because they want you to feel low. So whenever you feel low, that is also how you know that that is a sign that you don't need to be trying to fix something. So if we are moving away from the narcissist conversation for a second and we're talking about not feeding into criticisms, I mean, if you feel low when you're being criticized, then don't feed into that. But if, you know, if this is you and your relationship and it feels healthy, right? You guys can have exchanges where you can talk about things. There's improvements, there's empathy. They're not trying to isolate you in any way, then that is a healthy conversation. And then you can say, you know, okay, well, you know, I'll work on this. But if you find that the goalpost is continuously changing and you're continuously getting criticized and there's a space where you feel low, then you don't continue to fix. And you said something about how criticism can almost sneak up on you. So here's an example of being out on a date and, you know, your antennas might go up. And you're like, oh, but this person has been nice to me, you know, all this time. I don't really know what's going on. Let's say that you are bowling and the person is really competitive and they say something, you're having a great time and all of a sudden they say something like, oh yeah, no, stop bowling because I'm gonna beat you and I want you to feel low. It's a real sneaky comment, but it's one of those things that's like, we were just having a good time. Where is this coming from?
But couldn't that just be two people with a competitive nature?
Not, I want you to feel low.
Okay.
So those are the things that it's like, if you're having a good time and you don't really catch it, that's
Right.
like, you could laugh that off and it'd be fine. But if somebody is saying to you, I want you to feel low when you walk out of here, that's a little tricky. Those are little, you know, insidious ways for people to sneak things in.
So say that as a woman to a man.
It's the same thing.
Okay.
It's the same thing. You know, I want you to feel low. Don't do this. Don't try to beat me because I'm the best and you know that you don't do anything well, or you know that men can't do anything right. I think, so I'm making things up as I go, but that last thing about, you know, that men can't do anything right. That's a sneak, you're having a good conversation, right? But that's an insidious little sneaky comment that's just like, wait, what now? What do you think about men? What do you think about the opposite sex? Do you respect men? Right? So there's little things like that that you have to pay attention to.
Let's take a break.
You know you don't have to wear your PT gear anymore, right?
It's comfortable.
So how's civilian life treating you?
It's fine.
When I got out, I didn't want to admit that there was anything wrong because it felt like a failure. And then I realized, like, there's nothing to be ashamed of. So I started talking to someone. Maybe you are fine, but if you're not, it's okay.
Thank you.
If you or a veteran you know needs support, don't wait. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach.
You know, how you feel on the inside is just as important to me as how you feel on the outside.
Oh, Daddy. I'm grown up in every way, care and take care of you. You're my grown up and I know you're there. I'm a grown up and you know I care. 'Cause it's you and me and me and you. So when you are okay or not okay, I'll take care of you.
So I'm done. I've tried, it doesn't work. Maybe I need to be by myself. Like this is not me talking, because fortunately I've been somewhat successful in relationships. You know, they didn't all last, but they definitely were long periods of time of us still trying to figure. Because I think that's the other component. Sometimes people think that if it doesn't last, that means it didn't work.
Right.
But there's time that has to be involved in getting to know each other. So if it didn't work after 2 years, but it took me 2 years to even get past the comfort level, the honeymoon stage, where I can now actually truly get to know someone in their comfort zone. Like very recently in my own relationship, we're fine as a couple, right? We're great, we do things together, but now because we're coming to 2.5 years, almost 3 years, now the conversations of our future are starting to happen. But to me, when those conversations about your future start to happen, then now we need to start merging families in, just so that people can kind of see each other's vibe, right? This is my opinion. This is my personal, not professional. So I believe that, you know, yes, we do dinners, you know what I'm saying? We have outings, but those are always kind of like they're structured type of activities. So I think that it's important for people to have downtime and to see relationships in the downtime. So recently with my children, I wanted to go karaoke because I wanted us to do something that was playful so that you could get a chance to see me vibe with my children get a chance to see you vibe with me, you know what I'm saying? Because I think, yes, your children ultimately always just want you to be happy, but if you're also trying to set an example for what to do or how love looks or how dating even looks. I remember after I broke up, and I'm gonna come back to my boyfriend, but I remember after I broke up with their father, it was very important for me to set the tone now as a single woman, what that looks like. So, because I have
for
a
your
daughter,
kids,
for my
your children,
you know,
and for other people that's coming to date you. You set
hello,
the tone.
that part
Yeah,
too.
Right.
But it was still, as outside of the other people, it was still what example I need to show my boys and my daughter on how they now date as single people. You know, I need it, and sometimes we don't do that because it's grown folks' business. So we don't show that to our children. And then sometimes, since we don't show that to our children, we also don't show our children the love that builds or the red flags that builds, so that that parent can now be like, oh, that's not for me. Even though he's a nice man, even though she's a nice woman, that person's not for me. And our children, without us directly saying it to them, kind of get to see us stand up for ourselves in a sense, if that makes sense.
I think you have to show, if you have children, it's important to show every phase. You show them, you know, dating, and you model for them what healthy dating looks like.
Right.
And then if you happen to break up, we hope that you don't, but if you happen to break up,
Such is life.
you show them that, you know, you go through pain and you can do it in a way that's healthy, right? And that might be something, if you have children, that might be something that helps you to really watch the way that you start to get over your breakup, because sometimes you start getting up under people, sometimes you start drinking, right, to get over your hurt and your pain, or you start doing drugs, right? Whatever it is, you start going out, you start partying, right? But if you have children, maybe that can be something that you're mindful of, because you want to show them, okay, well, what you need is really time to heal, and this is what the healing process can look like. And if you get a new partner, these are the things that now you're being mindful of. These are the lessons now that you've learned. So depending on how old your children are, and a lot of conversations, you can make them age appropriate, right? But you want to make sure that you are letting them into these conversations. And you said something about the 2 years and what dating needs to look like in 2 years. And you said that a lot of the dates are structured, right? And I will typically tell people, if you are dating someone, to stress them out on like the first or the second date. Take them on those outings, like axe throwing. Take them, bowling is like relatively okay, but you want to see the competition. You want to see how they get when they're stressed out. Because anybody can tell you anything over dinner, right? Everything is proper and it's prim. And just like, no, stress them out so that you can really see who they are.
Who they are. Yes. Okay, so I started by saying I'm done.
Yeah.
Okay, so after a breakup, how do you heal? How do you heal after a breakup when it's not your fault? And how do you heal when it is your fault?
Let me tell you something. A breakup is always two people's fault.
Okay,
I just want to spoiler alert you.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm sure you're talking. And that's the reason.
Not me. I was perfect.
And that's the reason why in a breakup you want to take your time to review the entire situation. You want to take your time to review what you may have done that you want to change. You want to recognize what your partner did that you liked or that you didn't like, or ex-partner, excuse me. You also want to say what you like about how you show up in relationships and what you want to change. And you need time. Typically, if you were in a relationship for whatever amount of time you were in a relationship for, you need to give it half of that. And I know that sounds like a lot, right? Like some people,
wait, if I was
in
a relationship for 2 years, then I have to do a year?
Now imagine being in a relationship for like 5, 6, right?
Yes.
But it takes time for you to unlearn, right, the things. And that's why when you jump, sometimes you can jump right into another relationship, things happen, right? I didn't mean it, I just fell in love, I don't know.
Right.
And so things can happen that way because let's say you just get out of something, that's why they have the rebound, because you're very vulnerable. You know what I mean? And you can really think you like this person, but what you miss is the attachment, right? You miss not being lonely. And then if you jump into something too soon, like I said, you start taking the patterns and stuff from one relationship over into this next relationship. And that's how sometimes people say, oh, every man or every woman is the same way, but they don't realize that it's because they are showing up the same way in every relationship.
That part. Say it again to the camera.
Yeah, every man or woman can just feel like the same person if you are actually the one showing up as the same person.
Hello. Hello. Wow. Okay, so look out for narcissists.
Well,
Right.
let me, right,
Okay.
because I know this is a buzzword. Just
Okay.
look out.
All right, there we go.
just
I like
look
that,
out
yes.
look out for a heavy criticism. Look out
Okay.
for people who are putting you down or putting women down or men down.
Mm-hmm.
Look out for people who are not showing you signs that they can be empathetic.
And don't do Tinder.
Don't do Tinder.
Unless
you're looking for a hookup.
Right,
If
okay.
you're looking for a
so
hookup.
let's discuss that.
So
like are hookups
You could
bad?
be, listen, right? So you asked me, what do you do when you're in your healing phase,
Oh,
right? And
the
so
hookups?
sometimes
When I'm healing?
So let me tell you something. This is what I
What
say to people for real.
What's the saying?
What?
You got to get over one to get under.
No, we're gonna throw that out the window. That's what I was saying before, right? You can show your children what healthy healing
Thank
is, right?
you, healthy,
So
yes.
maybe if you are getting under another to get over someone else, maybe not show your children that part. But in the space that you are just having a good time,
yes,
you can be very, very sure that you are not ready to be in a relationship, but you still have needs, right? Now,
Yes.
I say to people that if you're the type of person, right, that you just like attention and you like to get your needs met, like you want to have sex, whatever it is, and you can keep it at that, and you don't get wrapped up in, oh, now this is my man, this is my woman, then okay, fine. But if you are the type to be outside with a boombox after you have just had sex, or you have sex 1 or 2 times, and now this is your person,
right.
Don't do it. If you can't even have a one phone conversation without being like, she's the one, he's the one, don't have sex with anybody because you are setting yourself up for failure.
Okay, so
in the fun phase, don't just be, don't have a hot girl, hot boy, summer, winter, fall. Don't do that. Don't do that.
I was just about to say that because we are still a Christian show.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And because that's the other component that I think that people don't realize, that it's like there even had to be a time that not only did I need to take a break from dating, I just needed to also take a break from having sex. Because when I am dating, if the relationship is somewhat decent, which they have been, then I'm sexually active for that year or that 2 years or that 3 or 5 years that I'm in the relationship. So even just giving my body, men and women, a minute to heal and breathe, because one thing I recently learned about 15 years ago is about the exchange of energies and how we, sexually can have lingers or energy lingering around us. So if we're jumping in from one bed to the next bed to the next bed, now we're starting to carry the weight without even realizing or knowing of others because of that sexual intimacy that we're sharing with someone.
Yeah.
So the healing process, it makes it even more difficult to heal. We're thinking we're just having a good time. We're thinking that, I'm not doing anything serious. I'm getting my rocks off. I'm releasing, I'm letting go, but not realizing that we can still actually be damaging that healing process by not just allowing us and our body time and space.
Think about having to hit the reset button over and over and over again. Right? And that's why it might be really helpful for you to just sit still and go through that uncomfortable phase, because if you just got over big heartbreak, right? And then you're vulnerable and you have sex with someone else, and remember, you're used to attachment now. You're used to intimacy. And let's say you have sex with somebody, there's no intimacy. That's disappointing. That's hurtful. So now we're at hurt number 2 after, so big heartbreak is number 1, hurt number 2. Let's say that you're like, okay, you try to shake it off, you dust it off, and you're back at it again. And I'm talking about having sex. I didn't even get to phone conversations. I didn't get to exchanges yet, right?
Okay.
But just if you're having sex, it could be like hitting the reset button over and over again, because you are trying to now detox and separate yourself, separate your emotions, separate the fantasies that you might have had about someone, right? So you're basically grieving over and over and over again, which is why, if you think about it, it's like, just sit still. Just give yourself a second.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Just give
Can you
yourself a
imagine
second.
that?
But I see it. I
Yeah,
know, right?
Oh my
I
God.
see it
So
every
you're
day.
almost doing like a disservice to yourself.
To yourself.
Oh my
To
goodness.
yourself.
Okay, so, woof. This was our 5th installment, and we never got to talk about
It's the fourth.
Oh,
Yeah,
see,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
already in the future.
Okay,
And we
I see you.
So you know what? So our 5th installment will be about other relationships. Because
Yeah, that's
this
perfect.
really,
That's
because
perfect.
I wanted to touch on how to handle and how to have relationships, because I think we're missing that also as a community. How to engage with our girlfriends, our male friends, our children, all of those things. But yes, it was definitely important to discuss dating, and we see that it took the majority of the conversation, especially now coming into the holiday season, where
Yeah.
there are a lot of breakups because it's gift giving time, and people don't want to give gifts.
Isn't that so cheap? Isn't that so cheap? Like, you know what? Get on my nerve one time so I can break up with you. Get on my nerve one time.
And then I'll get back with you in March after Valentine's
Right,
Day.
Valentine's Day. It's a mess.
You know,
it's a mess.
but that's what happens. So I am so appreciative and grateful for these installments because, again, you know, I come from a personal point of view. Again, it's professional, but it's what I've learned so far thus in my life. So having that clinical point of view is definitely, I think, a true joy, a true jewel. That's what I meant to say
Thank
to
you.
our audience. So, all right, I know our last show, I spoke 8 minutes in the show before I even let you talk, and then
Hey, girl.
we had such a good time that it was a lot of kiki and a lot of that. So I was like, purposely, I was like, I'm gonna make sure that we end her segment with just Quinelle because this is Quinelle's check-ins, right? And if you only hear from Kitty, it sounds like Quinelle's a visitor when this is actually her show. So Quinelle. What's next for the dating segment
series?
Where can they find you? What's your wrap-up message to folks? Give it to them. There's your camera. Let's go.
All right. So this was beautiful. If you are like, wow, there's so many jewels, I don't even know what to hold on to, take away this. If you are just recently getting out there and you're looking for, you know, people that you think are good to connect with, you just want to make sure that you remain open. And then if you see certain signs, then you'd be like, okay, let me take some space. And these signs may be, if you take them to the stressful event, like I was telling you about. So let's say you do one dinner is cool. The next event, let's say, I think there's a beat the bomb date or axe throwing. Those are perfect things. You see stressful, you see people under distress, you get to see how they respond to that. So make sure that you take them there. If a competitive nature comes out, that is okay. But if they start to put you down while they're being competitive, that is not okay. Usually I tell people to listen to their body. So if something comes up for you, then you might know that you need to slow down on a person. Maybe this is not the one right away. And if you continue to date someone and they are not showing you empathy when you speak, if they've hurt your feelings and they don't know how to show empathy or take accountability, then those are some red flags. If you are feeling like, you know what, this person's not the one for me, I actually need to break up, I need a break. During that break, really break, please give yourself a chance to grieve that relationship without trying to add more relationships that you need to grieve from. I think sex can absolutely complicate things. If you are a person that you're like, okay, I've reached my breaking point, I need to have sex, you know, it is what it is, but just try to make sure that at least you're choosing people who have shown you some level of decency. And somebody made a joke, I think Kat made a joke about Tinder. Yeah, let's not do Tinder. Let's maybe Hinge, maybe Coffee Meets Bagel, one of those things. And then maybe next time, well, not next time, because we're talking about relationships, family relationships next time. But if you are looking for more tips and you're like, okay, well, where do I actually meet these people? If it's not on these apps or what places do I go to meet people? Make sure that you come out to my next dating series installment, and the dating series is called The Right Way to Date. You can follow me on Instagram at Quinelle _Hickman on IG, and then on IG you can follow the other page, which is Counseling to Comfort _PLLC. If you are not on IG or Facebook or socials, you can go to www.counselingtocomfort.com.
Wow. Now, we told you last time that she about to, not be able to take your calls. So we're like really encouraging. I think last week, about 3 weeks ago, I called my therapist and told her that I was ready to start therapy again. And she was like, well, remember that rate that I gave you last year?
Yesterday's
Right?
price is not today's price.
So I was like, oh, okay. I'll call you back next month.
Let me
You know
crunch
what
the
I'm saying?
numbers.
Let me
Let me
crunch the numbers.
here.
But I crunched the numbers because I see the value in having therapy for myself.
Yeah.
So I encourage everyone to, look for a therapist, especially one that looks like you, because I think sometimes another disconnect why we don't allow ourselves to be vulnerable in talking is because maybe we feel like that person won't understand what we're feeling or
Right.
going through because we're just paying them or they don't look like us. So to have a beautiful face like this that I'm sure has gone through life the way that we've gone through life, but from a clinical professional point of view can give you guys insight. And I won't say at an affordable rate because do you put a price on your mental health?
Right, it can all be affordable because if you can go get the
Come
Gucci
on.
and the Louis and the but I won't get
And
on
no
my
judgment
soapbox.
with that.
No.
The judgment is if you choose to spend your money on the things that you want, then choose to spend the money on our mental health as well.
Absolutely, because those things are temporary things,
Yes.
right? And you want something that's going to be able to stay with you. They say you could teach a fish. What? Not teach a fish.
You can teach a
person
man
how to fish, right? Yeah, instead of just giving them the fish themselves, right? And I think those temporary things, the Louis, the Gucci's, those are like giving you the actual fish. But if you are in therapy, getting tools,
You're
that
learning
is teaching
how.
you to fish.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So once again, this is the 4th installment. Stay tuned to the 5th installment. If you have any questions for Quinelle, outside of reaching out to her directly through all of her socials, you can go back to our Facebook group page and ask questions there and get behind the scenes thoughts of our conversations off camera. All right, guys, until next week, here's another break. Let's say goodbye to Quinelle.
Bye.
Where did the time go? I don't know how I got here.
You've done the hard part. You quit smoking. Now do the easy part and get scanned for lung cancer. If you smoked, you may still be at risk, but early detection could save your life. Talk to your doctor and learn more at savedbythescan.org.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes.
Yes, Quinelle Hickman. I love Quinelle's check-ins because I always learn something, even though I think I know it all. I still learn something each and every time that she visits. So what's my Jesus moment? Jesus! Yes, honey. This conversation about dating, and I thought we were going to also deal with relationships, but you see how much came into just talking about dating and the relationships that we have when we start dating. So the scriptural reference that I was able to find was 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 1 through 5. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 1 through 5. Now, when studying 2 Timothy, we can discover at least 19 red flags that Christian singles should avoid if they hope to enter into a godly relationship. You can also gather an immense amount of valuable insight to help you avoid bad relationships. So 2 Timothy was mentioning, or 2 Timothy says, and I'm going to paraphrase this, it says, but mark this, there will be terrible times in the last days. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of the good, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power. So basically all the things that Quinelle was talking about. But now in a spiritual point of view, when you see these red flags or when you see these flags develop on a day, when I see such red flags develop on a date, knowing that this is the time of the world that we're living in, that's a flag for me to go to the left, because in my own personal journey of spiritual growth and development, it's important to be in line with those who feel the same. And it gets very difficult and very blurred when you don't have those same goals and guidelines. So that's my Jesus moment. We're going to take a break and then come back with Did You Know? All right, we'll see you in a minute.
I tell my son, I love you every single day. I love you. Now, my dad has never said that to me. Not because he doesn't love me, but because culturally it wasn't comfortable for him. Now that he's a grandfather, he says, I love you to my son every time he sees him. My advice to all the fathers out there, forget the cultural restrictions. They grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious moment.
Adding your own flavor to fashion comes with age.
Okay, Dad, look at you.
Yeah, welcome. Hi.
Forgetting how to add doesn't. Finding it difficult to work with numbers may be a sign of Alzheimer's.
Dad, are you okay?
An early diagnosis can help improve the quality of life for your loved one. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's. Some things come with age, some others don't.
Hey, did you know? Are you liking this segment? I am. So this segment or this installment of Did You Know is talking about menopause. Oh my goodness. I am 49 years old and I am pre-menopausing. And when I tell you that not one woman in my life growing up had a conversation about what I should be preparing for, there was not one. Not one woman. So first, what is perimenopause, which is what I'm kind of going through right now. Perimenopause is the natural transition between healthy reproductive function and menopause, or 12 consecutive months without a menstrual period. Early menopause occurs between the ages of 40 and 45. Early menopause is often unexpected and unwanted, and it can bring on very difficult symptoms. Even though this change may be hard to accept at first, so I'm going to read that again. Even though this change may be hard to accept at first, once you understand what's going on, then you can take natural steps to feel good and support your overall health. So that's my issue, always about giving us information and education that we don't normally talk about. So I was able to find 2023, the Midlife Makeover, www.midlifemakeover.co.uk. A white woman, but still informative. And what she taught or what she shared was 10 unusual menopause symptoms you never knew existed. Like we know the night sweats and the hot flashes. We know about those. But what are the weird ones? What are the ones that are unusual that we don't talk about? I'm gonna try to run past them quickly. Excuse me. We will come back and revisit this topic again. But just to give you a few, because I'm going through this, so I know one of you might be also going through this. Itchy skin. I oil you down so much you would think that I'm a tub of Vaseline. But when you have a lack of estrogen, the amount of lubricant is called sebum, S-E-B-U-M, sebum, that you produce in your skin goes down. And as a result, we start to get really dry, itchy skin. So just having more moisturizer around the place and taking our time to apply it on your body regularly will help. Sometimes I get out the shower and I get mad lazy and I'm like, oh, I think that I could just put on my clothes, and at the sometime mid part of the day, I'm doing all of this. So I know it's essential for me to make sure that I really lubricate shea butter with vitamin E oil, because I realized that I started suffering from that symptom. Bloating and digestive problems. Okay, I got the camera mid-drift because I don't want you guys to see my fufa. You know, everything, you know, you think because you little, you don't get that. But it's even saying that one of the symptoms from menopause is this bloating and our digestive system, where our food is harder to digest. So women often don't correlate their increased bloating when the changes in hormones at the time of perimenopause. The gut is very sensitive to estrogen, and when the estrogen level is declining, its ability to process the food in the same speed or the same way becomes impaired. Now, you might think I'm not dealing with this because I got little girls here, but breast heaviness and soreness. I started thinking that, am I pregnant again? Like, my titties started hurting, and I didn't understand why, because I ain't even got big titties. But breast heaviness and soreness can come. I thought this was interesting. Burning tongue syndrome? Even the tongue can notice the effects of the decline of estrogen, resulting in the term fiery mouth. In fact, 40% of women report that they've had this burning tongue type of sensation. So if that's you, you're not alone. Feeling dizzy. I haven't had that happen yet, not that I'm aware of. But if you start to feel dizzy, funny enough, people often don't associate dizziness with menopause. They are more likely to jump to a conclusion thinking that something has to be dreadfully wrong, rather than simply thinking that, wow, this might be connected to me entering the stage of menopause. Woo, child, this is a big one, and I know you guys might not want to admit to this. Change in your body odor. I had to have my man tell me, "Ooh, Kat, did you change the deodorants? Like, what's going on?" So my body odor is starting to change. Ear and hearing change. I'm starting to get deaf. I barely can hear anything. I'm like, what? What? All the time. Electric shocks. That hasn't happened to me. I can't imagine being in the street and having an electric shock. But what has happened to me is leakage. I've been on a train. I've been out somewhere. I get up, don't even feel it, and I got a wet spot in a circular spot. And my doctor told me that was my booty sweating. But I don't know if that's the case. I just thought that was awfully strange. And now I'm trying to fight, is it time for Pampers? Increase of new allergies or having allergies that you might have not had. And the last one is a change in your voice. Your voice might go back to the way it used to be, or it might get deeper. But these are some of the unusual things that happens when you are entering menopause. Woo! That was a mouthful. Now I need you guys to do the part of the show that is not necessarily my favorite, but it's essential for the growth of the next chapter, where we discuss shades of gray. You already know it's every week. Like, follow, share. Like, follow, and share. And until next time, I see you guys next week. I am your host, Minister Kat, a.k.a. KittyRose. This is the next chapter where we discuss shades of gray, and I look forward to returning back to you guys next week with another good, hot topic. All right, be safe out there, you guys. Don't forget, join our Facebook group page if you got any questions, comments. Until then, I see you guys in the Matrix. Mwah!
So I take the liberty to take them on a journey lyrically through hallways and alleys, dark days I carry, sharp pains and bellies. All days be heavy when you're programmed to survive. Legendary ciphers get the MCs in the jobs. The city never sleeps, slept from 1 to 5 when COVID hit the block.